So thanks for tuning in today. Today we're going to talk about core. We're going to talk about core specifically and how it relates to running and some things that we can work on and some concepts that I want you to pay attention to when it comes to what the function of our core really is when it comes to activity, but specifically today and how it relates to running. So regardless of your sport or activity, if you're a football player, a hockey player even, if you're a soccer player, or if you're a sprinter, like my crew over at ASCA that I help out with once a week there. Lots of good sprinters over there, sprinting and running, any sport, basketball has running. Any sport involving running, you have to understand that when you land on one leg, you have to come off that same leg when you run. So there's a lot of demand for your trunk to side bend and rotate and collapse because gravity is always working on you. So the key here is that we teach ourselves that this doesn't move. Our arms and legs are moving, and that the function of our core really is not to generate movement, but to resist movement. So I want my lower back, my abdominal, my back area to stay neutral. That means I'm not leaking into extension or flexion or side bending, and that I'm controlling that neutral, but at the same time still being able to breathe through my lower ribs. So it's really critical that we're able to breathe when we're in an exerting effort, not terribly functional to hold your breath. So the key for us here today, guys, is I want you to slow down, take your time, pay attention here. Okay? Too many people get going on stuff that's too hard and they lack control here and they let their back leak. So there's versions I'm going to go through. If some of them are too hard, you can go back and just do more of the easier version. The key is you're not allowed to leak through your lower back. No arching, no leaking, no twisting. It's the arms and legs only that are going to move here today, and that's the key. So we're going to start off with some versions of dead bug. So lots of you might know that exercise. We're just going to talk about versions of dead bug that will really be helpful. And we're going to think about challenging ourselves in multiple plane and challenging the nervous system. So the brain is really in control of all this stuff here, guys. So the key is that I want my brain to know this shouldn't move. My arms and legs should be what moves. And understanding that running has a lot of demands on our trunk and our hip that bring us out of just this straight ahead pattern. But we add that rotational and that side bending demand so that we challenge our trunk through multiple planes of motion here. So dead bug, essentially we're in this position. Typically the first one we would do is just arms, so the only thing that's moving is one arm. There's no arching of the back or dropping of the legs as we do this, and we control this and we still breathe. So then we're going to think about a heel drop. As we drop that heel, pull back up from the foot, so I don't want to see this leg out here anywhere, but you're really collapsing that knee and pulling from the foot. So we would do 10 arms each side, so 20. 10 each leg, dropping each heel. As you get better, if your heel drop is too easy, you find that too simple, you can reach a little further with your heel drop, pull back up from the foot again, and maybe you get to the point where you can reach all the way out, pull from that foot to come back up. So that just depends on your level. Again, make sure your control is solid and that you're not cheating here, okay? So then we're going to think about combining those, obviously. So we're thinking about arm and leg at the same time. And again, if we're getting pretty good with this, maybe we let it come out a little bit longer. And again, we're not cheating or arching or twisting. We're in control all the time. So we would do 10 with left leg, right arm, and 10 with right arm, left leg. So then we're going to think about starting to challenge our body through some other planes of motion here. And we're also challenging the nervous system because these are a little more complicated. The brain's got to think a little bit more here. So if I'm dropping this heel, I'm going to let my opposite arm fall out to the side. So I'm challenging different planes of motion with each limb, and the brain's got to figure that stuff out. So if I'm up in this position and this arm's coming out, this heel's dropping. So this arm is a lever, it wants to pull me rotationally, and I can make that a little bit more challenging if I find that too easy. So holding a small weight, this one's about 3 pounds. So as that comes out, it wants to pull my body with it, so now my trunk has to control that rotation. So as it's controlling rotation, I maybe let that heel come all the way out, depending on my skill level. And the key here is that I'm not arching and I'm not cheating through my back. So if I'm coming out and I'm coming through here and I'm letting that arch, that's no good. So I've got to try and control that and make sure that I stay in the range that I can control at all times. Okay? So we can then think about, okay, what about our legs? So if I let my leg fall out, this arm is coming up. So again, that leg wants to pull my body through a rotation from the bottom, and my trunk has to resist that rotation. But at the same time, I'm challenging my nervous system to think about a more complex pattern as I do this and I'm not letting myself cheat. So I'm always in control. Slow it down for me and pay attention to what you're doing with these things. So those are versions of dead bug, and I want you to think about trying to at least be able to do 10 of those from each side as you go along here. So now we're going to think about a hook bridge. So essentially a hook bridge is a version of a bridge where we really demand load from one leg, and remembering that running is only ever one leg in contact with the ground, so we have that rotational demand to get through. So if we're doing a regular bridge, we're pushing through those heels, crushing our glutes, opening up the fronts of those hips, really making sure this is tight and that you're pushing through those heels, hips, knees, fourth toes stay lined up here. So my ribs are relaxed, I'm able to breathe, and this really should be part of your warm-up anyway. So normally we get people to do 10-second holds here. But if I'm going to do a hook bridge, essentially I'm going to have one leg pulled up. Sometimes we get people to hold a ball or a towel roll up here against their hip. Their ankle stays very flexed. Dorsiflexion is super important for running patterns. It also helps activate deep abdominals. So we always like to think about what our feet are doing here. And I'm going to push through this heel. So as I push, that hip comes up. Trunk has to resist that demand of my other leg pulling me into rotation. And I'm able to control that. I like to use my other arm. It feels more natural to me, but you don't have to. The key is this leg doesn't drop, you stay pulled. So I like to think about pulling from here as I push through there. Okay? So maybe I hold that for 5 to 10 seconds, and I make sure I relax my bum and drop my tail, so I land nice and flat on the way down. And we're going to do probably 10 at least on each side. So we're going to think about versions of a straight leg raise correction. So I like this correction for me. I don't typically care for the double leg lift because one, it's very difficult to control, so you have to be pretty high level to get all the way down and back up again. And two, we don't run with both legs at the same time, so from a running standpoint, it doesn't really translate well for me. I like that asymmetrical loading. It brings in that rotational demand, and that's really important when it comes to core and running, okay? So I'm going to drive one heel through to the ceiling. I'm going to feel tight. That's going to help me stay neutral here. I'm going to flex this foot up. Remember, as I pull that foot up, I'm going to point the foot as I lower here. So what I don't want to see is that as I lower those ribs arch and I lose that. Or that this leg that's up tall moves. Ideally it stays crushed to the sky. I'm still able to breathe and I'm nice and slow here. Okay? So the key is I'm going to do at least 10 on each side. If you find that easy, do a few more. So we would do both sides again, of course. So then we're going to come into our side bridge. We're going to go through versions of side bridging. Again, a great exercise because it challenges predominantly one leg, really works our lateral line. So when I land, when I'm running, I'm landing on one leg and I want to make sure I stay nice and tight and I'm not collapsing into side bending. So ankles again are flexed up, knees are tight, bum is crushed. If I want to be a little harder, I can come up on one hand. It's a smaller base of support, so I have more contact with the ground when I'm on my forearm. But they're both good. Or if I find that too hard, I can come off my knees if I find a regular side plank too difficult, or side bridge if you want to call it that too. So the key here, keep it together, ribs are down, pelvis is up, bum is tight. I'm lined up from ear through my hip, through my knee and my ankle, and I'm in control as I do this, okay? So I should be able to do 30 seconds on each side. Maybe I have to break that into 2 reps of 15 seconds or 3 reps of 10 seconds. It's okay, I want control. And remember, you need to be able to breathe as you're doing this stuff, okay? So, after we've done that 30 seconds on each side, we're gonna think about coming back over. We're gonna say, okay, let's bring our lower leg into it here. Let's challenge ourselves a little bit. So if we're doing okay, I'm gonna keep this together and I'm gonna pull through an A pattern and back down. So I'm making sure I pull that foot and that knee really collapses and that foot stays nice and flexed at the ankle as it pulls up. So the key here is that I'm keeping that lower leg nice and tight. So this bottom leg has to stay strong through the bum as I pull, and as I come back down, I can work on maybe 15 reps or so each side and make sure that I'm always in control. Now if we wanted, we can bring her, then flip over back again and bring her upper arm in. So we bring that arm pattern in, maybe I do 15 or 20 with each arm. Again, if I find that a little bit easy, similar to our dead bug, we can bring in a little bit of weight Make sure we're staying strong and we're still able to breathe as we do that, okay? So, all great versions and all worthwhile working your way through to challenge your trunk to maintain control here while breathing. So arms and legs are moving, not through the back, right? So we're gonna think about our bird dog versions or our 4-point kneel stuff. So typically, arms are under shoulders, knees are under hips, ankles are always flexed up. So I'm not dropped too much. I keep those lower ribs in, that pelvis up. I keep that lower abdomen drawn in a little bit. And I make sure that when I reach with my arm, I'm not lifting to the ceiling and arching my back, but I'm just getting long. There's no shift of my body, that I just stay in control and I'm able to breathe. So we would do 10 each arm. Then you're gonna think about legs. Here I'm actually gonna point my foot and reach behind me. And then I'm gonna pull my foot to come back in, similar to our A pattern. So I'm gonna point to reach, pull to come back in. So again, no shift, no arch, and no twist. So I don't wanna see as you reach that you have this twist, okay? Because then when we bring our upper and lower half together, so we would do 10 each leg, as I reach with my arm and come through my foot, typically I see a lot of that stuff. So I don't want to see that because now I've let go and I'm not controlling that desire to give into extension. I have to get my anterior core here to really work to make sure that I maintain control. Pull back in. So point, reach, pull back in. So as I'm going through, I'm in control, getting long, like a bird dog, right? And coming back in. Okay? So we would do 10 with each diagonal, so opposite arm and leg, at least, and make sure we have good control through those. If I want to make that a little bit more difficult, if you guys find those really way too easy and you have excellent control and still breathing, then you can try into that slight bear crawl pattern. So in this position now, I've got to control that desire of my body to leak, okay? And I'm not shifting, and I'm really working hard to control my trunk, okay? So a lot more difficult when it comes to the lower half too. Okay, trying to maintain that little bit of control. To try and bring upper and lower half in, that's really pretty difficult. If you feel you can do that, that's fine. But if you get up there and you start shifting and doing stuff, no good to us, okay? So let's do the versions that are hard enough that we can feel we're working, but not so hard that we can't control what we're doing around our trunk here, okay? So last but not least, we're gonna think of versions of planks that bring in another asymmetrical load. Again, we're getting our trunk to be able to resist rotation here. Super important. So, typical plank is here. So we're gonna widen our stance a little bit. Knees are tight, bum has to stay absolutely crushed. And the key is I am able to come up and touch my chest and I don't lose control there. So there's no shifting, I'm not flexing or arching, and I'm able to control that, and it should be slow and deliberate, not quick. Control this stuff, work hard for it. As that gets easier, I just bring my feet a little closer together. Okay? So as I'm able to, I have to work a little harder here. Right? So I'm going to think maybe 3 sets of 10 with each arm. Really work hard to challenge yourself with these ones. So all great exercises to challenge control of the trunk and how it relates to asymmetrical loading, and that's running. Only ever one leg in contact with the ground. You have to control those other planes of motion. It's not only just forward and backward. So it's really important we add in some of these asymmetrical movements with our limbs, and that you really pay attention to breathing and controlling those lower ribs and not letting yourself leak. So good luck, have fun, take your time, be in control. Take care, guys.